Wednesday with Sonia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wake Up Later on Wednesday with Sonia Poulton. That video wouldn't play for me, and I don't know what happens with StreamYard when it does that. But hey, welcome to you. I hope you're all wonderful and well. Yes, what happened? What's going on? Good afternoon, Colin. How are you, my darling? Thank you so much for your tune for Monday's show. And I was going to play our Wake Up Wednesday, but I got it on and it just wouldn't play because sometimes that happens, you know. There is some kind of glitch that goes on with StreamYard, but who cares? Who cares? Let us move on with the show. How are you all? It's wonderful to see you. Good afternoon. Beautiful people. And I see that Jimmy Bruce, wow, actually going to see this live for once. Greetings all. Lovely to have you with us, Jimmy. We truly appreciate it. Grand risings to you all. Crazy Bunny, StreamYard can be a dick. It certainly can. Oh, absolutely it can. But for the price we're paying, it shouldn't be. Right. What is going on today? Well, let me see. This is the midweek point, of course, where we catch up with what's gone on and look forward to the rest of the week. Wake up, Styly. On today's show, my guests are Mum Ashley Hughes, who will be joining us to talk about the urgent medical care her 3-year-old daughter Sophie needs, but is being absolutely failed by the NHS. And I saw a video, Ashley sent me a video, and I said, I've got to get this woman on immediately. We need care for this child immediately. This is urgent. And I ask anyone out there with a pulse and a conscience to get behind this when Ashley joins us at 5:15. Plus, we'll be joined around 5:30 by Ryan Christian, the last American vagabond. He's with us to talk Trump, Musk, Israel, Gaza, and more. Do not miss it. So how are you all? Short order in the building. That's all I see. Morning. No, not morning. Evening, Marco. How are you? And lovely hope, love, and peace. Oh, gosh. I saw this on Twitter. What did you see, Poppet? Good evening, lovelies, Kath. Good evening, Fred Withrow and Dilip and all of you. News headlines. Several people have been injured in a shooting outside a court in the German city of Bielefeld. This incident occurred outside the trial of Hussein Akert, who was charged in connection with the 2024 murder of professional boxer Bisar Namani. At around 1:30 p.m. local time, 3 shots were fired around 150 meters from the courthouse. It's being reported that at least 2 of the defendants' family members were shot. And while one suffered a wound to the leg, the other is said to have been critically wounded in their chest. So far, one suspected perpetrator has been arrested, while another has barricaded himself into a nearby building. And UK, Starmer is heading off to the US for a meeting with President Trump at the White House tomorrow. Mr. Starmer is the 6th president to visit, not the first, not the second, the 6th. Kind of tells you how they're seeing us these days. And certainly Starmer, I don't think for 1 second there is any love lost between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. So I think this is going to be interesting. Top of the agenda, of course, will be Ukraine, that ball ache known as Ukraine. Oh, yes. Trump wants out and he wants to take mineral profits with him. Zelensky continues to bellyache today, even though he has very little bargaining power. And Starmer continues to want in, having signed the UK to a 100-year deal with Zelensky. We deserve so much more. We deserve so much better. They're also likely to discuss tariffs and the Chagos Islands. And I'm looking forward to the press conference pictures because they're always so revealing, aren't they? On Tuesday, Trump and President Macron couldn't work out how to shake hands and had a number of awkward exchanges, with Macron having to correct Trump about the money handed out to Zelensky. Interesting times, people. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I saw this woman in Parliament today, Angela Rayner. She's the Housing Secretary. She was speaking in Parliament. This was the government response to the final report on the Grenfell Tower fire. Now, this is curious because we actually covered this on Monday. Grenfell Tower, of course, was the block of flats in West London that went up in flames in June 2017, and 72 lives were lost as a consequence. And Angela Rayner, well, no, it's interesting really, because We discussed, as I say, we discussed Grenfell and the final report with government whistleblower Terry Edge on Monday, and he had a completely different story to tell than the one that our Ange was telling in Parliament today. I know that won't surprise you whatsoever. So anyway, let me just run through what she had to say. She said the inquiry had 58 recommendations and the government will take on board all those recommendations. This sounds great, but in reality, it doesn't actually mean squat. We had a lengthy child abuse inquiry that cost us millions of pounds with recommendations that were ignored until the whole grooming gang scandal erupted again recently. And MPs again pretended to care until it fell out of popularity, and now they're ignoring it again. Well, back to Angela Rayner. She said there will be public quarterly reports and updates in Parliament annually regarding the Grenfell recommendations. We shall see. She said, we will prioritise residents and protect their interests and make sure industries build safer homes. All talk. 8 years since it happened, settlements have been made. Many people won't be able to talk because they've taken money to buy their silence. Rayner claims we have a different building system now, but what use is that if they refuse to acknowledge the problems with toxic furnishings? The elephant in the room is that people were not killed by the fire at Grenfell, but by the chemicals that were released by the fire. Rayner said the report had concluded that every single death was avoidable, and on that, she is correct. This is about corruption, greed, systemic dishonesty, mercenary behaviour that put profit before people, failures from government and regulators and the local Kensington Council and the Grenfell Management Company. She said there is an ongoing Metropolitan Police investigation. What now? They've had 8 years since the fire, 5 months since the final report, and no arrests. What on earth is happening? There were people who were literally responsible for 72 deaths in a West London tower block in June 2017, and not one person has been arrested. I made a film about this. I've talked about it before. A crime against humanity. It was absolutely avoidable, but greed and corruption went in the way. And the fact is that they have been slowly turning that area of West London into a rich person's area. It used to be very much working class, and that has changed because it's prime real estate land out there. Oh, yes, indeed. Indeed. 10 grand and an NDA. I know, Marcus, and it makes your blood boil, doesn't it? Makes your blood boil. Anyway, listening to her, I was just like, yeah, whatever. Not really buying it. Not really buying it at all. And why should we? Why should we? They've given us no reason to believe that anything that takes place, the inquiries, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. So, look about the Dr. David Kelly. It made clear that there were real serious government issues. Anybody ever been arrested for that? No. It won't happen. These things won't happen. Mary said, I'm not sure that fridge caused that fire. Not even a fire inspector arrested. No, Fred, nobody. Marco lives near Grenfell, and they have built so many high rises in the past few years. It looks like Dubai. I hear you loud and clear. And this is kind of creepy, kids. Are you ready for it? Oosh. Madeleine McCann, reimagined. No, this is not creepy at all, is it? Not creepy at all. An artist has created a version of Madeleine McCann and how the artist would expect Madeleine to look at the age of 21. The artist is Simone Malik. She took 4 weeks to sculpt a 3D model using her skills as a super recognizer, apparently, to analyze Madeleine's features and those of her family. It's a clay sculpture. It shows Madeleine with makeup and a low-cut top and aims to raise awareness and potentially aid in solving the mystery of the disappearance of Madeleine. Malik hopes her work will prompt new leads in the case, stating if it can trigger someone out there and lead to something, I would be extremely proud. Really? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Simone is a former NHS worker from Bradford. She said, I think it's the most accurate current model of Madeleine. Well, I don't. I don't think it's the most accurate current model of Madeleine. I don't believe poor Madeleine ever made it to her 4th birthday, let alone to her 21st. This feels like more misleading nonsense to take us away from the fact that Madeleine was almost certainly not abducted, but the Metropolitan Police will be looking for a new handout in March. So this will help with that because obviously, like the fake Madeleine, Julia Wandolt, who is currently detained, and awaiting a pleading hearing in April, what it does is it makes people believe that the abduction narrative was real. And anybody who's taken an opportunity, a chance to actually research this case and read the Portuguese police files will know that sadly the belief and the evidence points to the fact that Madeleine never left that apartment alive. So yes, I think it's very misleading. And on top of that, I think it's bloody creepy. Shalini says weird times a million. It is. It's creepy. It creeps me out. It creeps me out. And I see that the princess, or rather the prince and princess of Wales, William and Kate, are in Pontypridd today, pretending they care about the floods that happen there. Perhaps the royal couple could question the local MP for me, MP Alex Davies-Jones, as to why a constituent had a dozen police raid her home and charged her for asking questions of the MP regarding Gaza. And why was the trial due to start this week delayed at the last moment? Was there a concern that this was bad PR for a royal visit? Asking questions of our political representatives is part of a democratic society. This looks like state overreach. I covered this story a couple of weeks ago. It involves a constituent, Aisha Nashwa, who had asked a question of Alex Davies-Jones to do with the Gaza vote. Aisha then put the video on social media, and what followed was a glimpse of true dystopia. Not the made-up stuff that makes it to the front pages of the Mail on Sunday or what the Free Speech Union will get behind, but something else, something very real. Aisha's home, as I say, was raided by a bunch of cops, and her flatmate and she were charged and were scheduled for trial yesterday, but it has been delayed. Why might this be? It's a live case, so I will be careful. But isn't it interesting that this last weekend there has been some controversy in Pontypridd regarding the MP? And it should also be noted that since winning the election, Davies-Jones has been announced as Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Victims at the Ministry of Justice, with a specific remit around victims and violence against women and girls. But it would appear that a dozen police officers raiding the home of a young woman over a social media post and having her charged is okay. Last time the fake Prince of Wales visited Pontypridd was for the same reason, floods. That was Charles. That was in February. Wait, what? I'm just looking at the date here. That was February the 21st, 2020. And now this is February 26, 2025. And that was when the Prince of Wales has visited Pontypridd, where he met residents and businesses affected by the recent floods. So yeah, there's a problem with floods in Pontypridd, but having fakers who assume the guise of Prince and Princess of Wales when they're not Welsh doesn't really make matters any better. Abolish the monarchy. She far too good for him. What's that? What's that? He is very handsome and old ladies like him. Really? Who? Are you talking about William? Cool. What? Will Prince William have an investiture? What's that? I'm sorry, you're throwing me off. You're throwing me off. Try and stay on course, people. Try and stay on course instead of having other conversations, because it throws me off on the live chat. Thank you. Appreciated. Right. And what else? What else do I want to talk about? I want to talk about Tim Westwood. Tim Westwood. Here we go. The BBC have finally released a report commissioned in 2022 about the DJ Tim Westwood. The report has revealed that there was a considerable body of evidence that the broadcaster failed to investigate the DJ fully. The report, led by barrister Gemma White KC, cost approximately £3.3 million, found there were missed opportunities that might have led to action. However, there was no evidence of predatory sexual behaviour. Westwood has previously strongly denied all allegations of inappropriate behaviour, along with any wrongdoing. The Metropolitan Police are also conducting their own separate investigation into the DJ. The Met had actually asked the BBC at Christmas not to release their review until the Met had completed their investigation, and the BBC agreed. So what changed? We've heard nothing from the Metropolitan Police. So it's interesting the BBC chose to release the report and apologise over the missed opportunities to stop that, in quotes, misogynistic behaviour of Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood. And it's interesting because I'm sure this doesn't surprise you, but the BBC has managed to exonerate itself. The BBC board said it is worth noting at the outset that the report finds there was no widespread or significant BBC knowledge of allegations or concerns about predatory sexual behaviour by Mr. Westwood. They treated allegations in isolation, failed to act on them. Where have we heard this all before? Hey, BBC, you do the same thing over and over and over again. It's starting to look like a pattern. Westwood left BBC in 2013, so over a decade ago. He was there for 2 decades. Prior to that, he was at Capital Radio. He was the most influential hip-hop DJ in the UK, bar none. He had such power that he could say to record promoters, if you let somebody else interview that person, then I won't even play their music. And he did that repeatedly. He had people over a barrel. He had such incredible power when it came to breaking hip-hop artists in this country. Anyway, we shall await for the Metropolitan Police report. And we shall see. We shall see. Cancel your TV license if you haven't already. Capital Gold with Ace Jimmy Savile. The world has gone mad, Del. I can't keep up. Dear Sonia, how do you do it? Or continue to care? I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Because I suppose I wake up every day and I see another corruption or injustice and I say we can't have that. Talking about which, I'm going to bring in my first guest. Here she is, lovely Ashley. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
Hello, Sonia. I'm good, thank you. Are you?
Wonderful to have you with us, everybody. This is Mum, Ashley Hughes, and Ashley sent me a video. I was appalled. Ashley, before we do anything, I'm going to play the video that you sent me, okay? This is of your daughter, Sophie. Sophie is 3 years old, and I want everybody to see this. That is your daughter breathing, Ashley, or just about. Your daughter has sleep apnea. When I saw that video, I was like, what on earth is going on here? There's something dreadfully wrong. Surely she's getting help for that. And then, Ashley, you've now told me about such a problematic situation. I just said, you're going to have to come on. You need to come on. You need to talk about it. First of all, what does Ashley have exactly?
Sophie.
Sophie, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So Sophie has severe sleep apnea. So it's not even mild sleep apnea. It's severe. Her oxygen drops to 68% at night. Her heart fluctuates. She's got a massive chest recession. You can see the tugging, the stridor. It's just awful to watch. We went for a sleep study at Preston Hospital back in September, and they knew it was so severe. I mean, yeah, the alarm's going off. It was constantly in the red.
Let me just play that again for our viewers. So this was a sleep study you attended, and that alarm going off indicates what to us?
It's a risk to life. Yeah.
That is a risk to your daughter's life. So presumably the obvious thing is she's getting the treatment she needs, right, Ashley?
No, far from it.
Talk to us. Tell us everything.
Yeah, so she had a sleep study done. They was like, we're going to bring her in for a sleep study. We can see she's got sleep apnea. They knew how severe it was, and they was like, she needs treatment. And then radio silence, nothing. I rang repeatedly. I emailed, completely ignored. I put a PALS complaint in, to which then the paediatrician rang me and was like, we're so sorry. This is not acceptable. She does need treating. We're going to do this, this, and this. Bring her into hospital, basically. And none of it's happened. And I've chased it again, put another complaint in. nothing's happened. And yeah, here we are. We're still fighting just for her to have breath at night, some form of oxygen. I'm like, in the meantime, so she's waiting for an operation in Manchester, to have a camera down to basically see what's happening with her airway. They think it could potentially be something structural, but it's not completely. It could be that, it could be respiratory, it could be cardiac. No one knows. They've not done the investigations properly, basically.
But they have
Yeah,
ruled that she is clinically urgent, right? And clinically urgent, to my understanding,
absolutely.
means that she has to be treated in that month. And you're now heading for 3 months. Is that
3
right?
months. Yeah, so because she's got such bad saturation levels with her oxygen dropping, she's clinically urgent. She has a P2 attached to her operation. It should have been done within 1 month, which is clinically acceptable. It is now to the 3-month mark. We don't even have a date. This could be 6 months from now, a year from now. Who knows? Like, and meanwhile, Sophie's suffering, has the risk of potentially not waking up every night.
How horrific for a mother and a father to have to go through that. We have an image of all your family together, and it's a beautiful image, and presumably that's Sophie's sister up
It
front
is
as
hell.
well. Lovely family, lovely to see you all together there. This must be horrific. As a journalist, I saw it and said she needs help. As a mother, I thought, I don't know how she's coping. And I said to you today when we talked earlier, how are you sleeping? Because if you're worried that your daughter is going to stop breathing through the night, how do you sleep?
I don't, and we've literally been to A&E 4 times this week. I've been 3 times to Preston, once to Manchester, and they visibly saw my daughter sleeping. I'm like, would you send your own child home not breathing like this? And he just was like, didn't really answer me. And I'm like, can you see what I'm seeing? Like, what? Are you mad? Like, why would you send a child home not breathing, basically not breathing? So for every minute she's asleep, she's stopping breathing for up to 45 seconds a minute. So she's getting less than 15 seconds of air.
Oh my.
It's
Uh,
just it's incredible.
but it's also the repercussions of how this is going to impact her development as well. It's
Yeah.
already impacting her development, isn't
Yeah.
it?
She's half her age behind in development already. She's there's potential it could damage her heart. It could, cause brain damage. The untold effects of what it could happen in the future. None of us know what it means, and none of them are telling us. And why they're not treating her. She's got the potential for it to get a hell of a lot worse for it.
This is
And
horrendous.
she's
People are,
3.
she's 3, and it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
People are asking if you've tried alternative methods such as homeopathy, anything like that. Anything like that, have you tried?
I have researched a lot, but I mean, when it's a breathing, she clearly needs oxygen.
Yeah.
you know, and that is the option that she needs. In the meantime, she needs oxygen. Either her airways collapsing, something significant's happening when she's especially asleep, but also her oxygen does drop in the day as well, which they are aware of and they've never addressed. I recently took her to physiotherapy. Her physiotherapist was like, is she normally like this out of breath? And I was like, yeah, every day. She doesn't play like a normal 3-year-old. She's so lethargic, so lies down most of the day. And she was like, that doesn't look good. She rang the hospital on my behalf and was like, you must take her to A&E. I took her to A&E, to which they was like, yeah, well, she's under a specialist, and I was like, what? So this is normal for she was 2 at the time, 2-year-old child to be this out of breath? And he was like, well, it's probably viral. And I was like, what? Like, what planet are you on that you can send a child home and go, oh, it's probably viral? She's out of breath every single
It's
day. She's
awful.
fatigued.
Can't
Yeah.
bear it. And people are saying, who are just kind of logging on now, would an operation cure it? That's exactly what you want. And this is part of the delay, isn't
This
it?
is what
So,
we,
yeah,
yeah, it's
go
an
on.
investigation basically to see what she needs. So until that investigation is done, none of us know. None of us knows what's causing it. It could be, something wrong structurally with her airway. It could also be a lungs. It could also be a heart. No one knows because they've not done enough investigations.
What is the health secretary saying? Wes Streeting, you've written to him, right?
Absolutely. I've written to West Streeting, the Prime Minister, and my local MP as well, and I've had absolutely nothing back. Nothing at all.
Nothing,
Completely
not even an
nothing.
acknowledgement. And
Not an acknowledgement.
your local MP is a famous MP. He's Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who is the Speaker of the House. And you're telling me he hasn't responded?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
People, we need your help right now, right? What we need to do is either tonight or tomorrow, as soon as we can put this video out separately, we need to get it on social media. We need to tag in the Royal Preston and Manchester Children's Hospital. We need to tag in Wes Streeting. We need to tag in Sir Lindsay Hoyle. We do it all very politely, but these people need to know that we're onto it and Sophie needs some help. There are people in the comments saying, have you considered starting a GoFundMe because they would contribute to it? Have you thought about that, Ashley?
I have had it suggested to me in the last few days, and it is definitely something I would consider. Anything that could help my daughter. I mean, the worst fear you can have as a parent is your child not waking up. And
Right.
this is what we have every single night. Every time she goes to sleep, you have the fear. Sometimes when I've not heard of her, like in a couple of
Oh,
hours, I wake up and I'm
love.
like, oh my God, is she breathing? We have to run and check on her. And, it's horrible. It's the worst, position to be in as a parent.
Of course it is. It's absolutely terrible. Some people are also suggesting names that may be of interest to you. Have you heard of Dr. Dale Bredesdon? Have you heard of him?
No.
All right. Well, let's look into him. Let's
Yeah,
research. Yeah, if possible, seek private hospital assistance, says Drumstick. Well, but she shouldn't need to. This is really the problem. Yes, it's
absolutely.
absolutely horrific. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. I mean, what can we do other than be part of creating pressure on these people? Is there anything else that we can do? Because if we can do something, Ashley, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Absolutely. This is it. And it needs to just raise awareness as well of how badly the hospitals are failing small children. It's not acceptable. She's 3 years old, she's developing. It's a crucial time in her life for development. And she's being starved of oxygen every single night. That can delay your development massively. She's partially deaf at the minute. Like, she's wearing hearing aids, we're learning sign language. She can't run, she can't jump, she can't climb stairs. Like I said, she's so fatigued every single day. She lies down. Never seen her run around like a normal 3-year-old, how a 3-year-old should be. She plays for 5 minutes and she's tired. It's awful.
I think Kath sums up what many of us are thinking. That is, we don't know how you're coping with this. And I mean, you look great. You look, you're totally on top of this and everything. But this must take its toll on you and your partner.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a constant fight that you shouldn't even have to have. As a parent, you shouldn't have to fight this hard. You should be, she should be entitled to this care. This is what she deserves. This is what she needs. It's, life or death. It's not even just, oh, she's got a cold, she needs that treating. It's life or death. Oxygen, what we all need to breathe, and she's not getting it. It's insane.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear all of this. Everybody is like deeply upset. And unfortunately, we need to be deeply upset because sometimes you have to make people deeply upset in order for things to happen. So people are just shooting out stuff, which I know they're hoping is helpful, like things like, have you had the home check for carbon monoxide levels, as one example?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've tried it. We've tried it all, haven't you? You know what you're dealing with, and you're
Literally,
dealing
yeah.
with the NHS just blocking you, right? And that is the problem.
I mean, she's not been well. This is a failure since she's been born. So when she was born, she's massively congested. I questioned this, which I was told, oh, some babies are just snuffly. This carried on. She's never sounds clear breathing. She's always sounds like she's got a cold, like a really bad cold. I questioned it. She got a chest recession at 5 months old. We got rushed to hospital. They discharged her, no investigations. Her chest was
Oh.
completely dipped in. And I mean, really dipped in, which she still has. And they said, oh, she'll outgrow it by the time she's 5. And then this has continued. And it took until she was over 2 years old for them to actually go, oh, actually, there is something wrong with her. And this is countless trips to the GP. No, it's not viral. Someone can't have a viral infection every single day of the
Right,
year,
right,
you know?
right, right, right. But have any of the authorities or any of the kind of governing bodies helped? So, for example, the CQC, any help there?
Yeah, so I've just put in a complaint to the CQC
Good.
as well. I've done PALS. PALS weren't very helpful. In the end, when I put the second complaint in, she actually said to me, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "I want you to get them to treat my daughter for what they know she has. That's all I want. Like, I don't see that as being a big problem. You know what she's got, so treat her for it."
People can't understand why doctors and the NHS are being so dismissive with you.
It's insane.
I don't think you have an answer to that, right?
No, absolutely not. I take her. I mean, I travelled all the way to Manchester on Saturday night, sat an A&E on the Saturday night, with the hope that they would be like, "Oh, of course we can help you." We tried Preston countless times, no help. And we just got the same, it was like, "Oh, well, she needs a specialist." Well, she's under a specialist. She's not getting the help she needs. "Can you not help her? Can you not give her some form of oxygen?" He was like, "I wouldn't even know where to start to get her a CPAP machine." And I'm like, "What? Are you in a hospital? Like, where else could I possibly go? What else could I possibly do?"
Oh,
It's just facing a brick wall each time. And it's like, and then we go to Manchester, they go back to Preston, go to Preston. They're like, "Oh no, we're waiting on Manchester. You need to go to Manchester."
pillar to
One of them
post,
needs to
pillar to
accept,
post.
yeah, and so somebody just needs to do something. This is what I said on Saturday. One of you needs to accept responsibility and just do something for her.
This is medical negligence. This is medical negligence.
Absolutely.
They want to be careful. You've got a case. You've actually
Yeah.
got a case. Perhaps what we also need to do is start tagging in some good medical negligence lawyers, see what they think about this as well. Listen,
Yeah.
Ashley, I'm really sorry to hear what you're going through. Anything I can do, I absolutely will do. We will produce a standalone video. We will whack this out. I will personally send a copy to Wes Streeting at his parliamentary email address. Okay. And you just
Thank
let
you.
us know whatever we can do and keep us updated. Okay. And big hugs to that baby from us. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. Thank you
You
so
take
much.
care of yourself, everybody. Ashley Hughes, she needs our help, everybody. Please get on to these people, get onto the Royal Preston Manchester Children's Hospital. Always be polite, but let them know Sophie needs help today. Take good care of yourself, Ash. Lots of love to you.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to her. No parent should have to go through that. Absolutely no parent should have to go through that at all. It's awful. It's shocking and it's horrendous. It's awful, Jan. And I agree with Shakesh. If a child of an MP was suffering so much, they'd act today. They would. And Mayday says, "Hi, Ryan. Good to see you here. See what we have to put up with the NHS. Mayday, how can you see Ryan? How do you know Ryan's there? That's interesting. That's curious. Stay strong, Ashley," says Jasmine. "Well done for making people aware and fighting for your daughter. Always, always." Yeah, I know. The problem is Ashley has to deal with her child being sick and now has to email contact every Tom, Dick and Harry to complain. It's not fair. We need to help this woman. We do. And that's why I brought her on. Let's pull together. Let's show what people power can do. We need to do it. Let's bring in our next guest. Here he is. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
Good. Thanks for inviting me on. I was actually just commenting in the chat. That's what they saw me
Oh,
commenting.
was it? Oh, okay. My pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Now, do I pronounce your surname Christian?
Yeah, that's correct.
It is. How interesting. Ryan Christian, and you are, of course, the last American vagabond. I'm not even sure where to start with you. So much is going on in your homeland that seems to be impacting us over here. But I think probably a good starting point is just give me your overview on Trump's initial few days, Ryan.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the hard thing is that a lot of the things that are happening right now, just from an objective perspective, not from like an apolitical lens, I went waiting for outcomes, right? Action, not just words or even executive orders, which I do consider somewhat of an action, but still waiting to see how they're upheld or what, whether they changed their minds, which happens all the time as well. But right now, just on the first opening phase, I'm hopeful for a lot of the people, like I always try to be, that wanted to see the best in this administration, like the same people that thought about the last Trump administration, the same people that thought about the Biden administration. My mind is that all of our government is acting against us and has been for a very long time, as pretty much all governments. I'm very pessimistic when it comes to government in general. Deeper conversation, if you're interested to have it, about whether we should even need government in the world, but most people aren't ready for that. But
I'm ready for that. I'm ready to raise the whole lot to the ground. Oh, yes, I am. But
yes,
no, I take your point. Most people aren't. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
Most people feel that they need some kind of leadership. And perhaps we do in order to bring us all together. But I'm not sure what kind of leadership we're getting at this moment in time. But do continue.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I just think what we're seeing right now is a lot of bombastic moves, a lot of talking, a lot of just a lot of narrative. And I think, like, for example, one thing I would shout out to start with a positive that I did appreciate, even though I wish that this wasn't being done through executive order, which we all used to generally say was a problem. And now it's just become the excuse because the other side, that's how it goes. But the executive order about women's sports. I'm sure people might disagree with that. I personally think that's a very good move because I don't think that's how this should be working. And the problem, though, is that it was done by executive order, which means next time somebody could flip it right back. It's also worth pointing out that he's also rolling out a mRNA cancer shot and still promoting the mRNA shot for children. So, but still a good thing. But overall, what I've seen is a lot of bluster, a lot of talk, a lot of moves that are more so moving things around. And this is a very unpopular discussion, especially for the Republican side right now. But that, like USAID, for example, I mean, I've been doing very deep dives on this, going through the spending documents, like on USA spending and looking at what they're doing. And I mean, even it's starting to trickle out even on corporate media now. The lies. I mean, claiming something is like the big popular one discussed is claiming it's 8 billion. Turns out it was actually 8 million, and they altered that number, but then the main number stayed the same, even though they rolled it back billions of dollars. But there's more and more being caught like that. Just to sum the quick point now, I just see a lot of deception happening, a lot of like the Gaza condom story or the story about the Reuters funding. And I've proven that these are very clear deceptions, much of which the spending took place during Trump's administration. And to be clear, I don't think any of it should be happening. It's not Trump versus Biden. I think they're all part of the problem, and the spending should stop entirely. That doesn't change the fact that what they're doing, you can prove in many ways are deliberately dishonest.
Absolutely. And you're right. Some of those executive orders, they were fantastically popular. And I completely agree with you. Sports should be single sex. It's single sex for a reason. Because if you and I are in a running race, chances are if you're fit enough, you're going to beat me. Right. And same with boxing and anything else. Right. That's just the reality of it. So that's great. That was good stuff. The withdrawal from the WHO looked like good stuff as well. And then, of course, we have to cope with all the other stuff that's taking place, such as a clear support of Israel above and beyond almost anything. What did you think of the Trump Gaza video today?
Right. Well, really quickly on that. So just the point being is that just in the policy aspect was what I was kind of highlighting. I think it's very dishonest, but just since we have limited time, just on a large scale, what I see happening is the rollout of what they pretend they're fighting. Whether we're talking about the Zionist problem that I think is very transparent in the world today, not Jewish people, not even just Israelis, but Zionism that's infiltrating all around the world, or the technocratic drive, which I think is intertwined, or the New World Order deep state dynamic, which is like the literal, like the North American Union point and all these different things that the people who have been screaming about this forever are suddenly pulling all their punches. That's what I'm worried about. And I think it's been coordinated between multiple administrations. But the Gaza part, I think, is very important because I actually see Gaza not just as, I mean, the most obvious point is this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to cover in this field. It is an ongoing genocide with literally every disgusting thing you could possibly discuss being now literally proven, like rape and torture. And I mean, from explicitly the Israeli side. And it's just ongoing. And so the fact that they're still supporting this just makes me sick. And from Biden to Trump and continuing that, the amount of Israeli Zionist, like overwhelming support, I mean, to the point of like biblical prophecy support in his administration is ridiculous. But I was going to say that I think Gaza also is much more also in addition about like the technocratic push they're rolling out, because I think right now they've already discussed how Gaza in regard like the mining dynamic from Ukraine now and all these different points coming together, they're planning to rebuild this location and use all these resources. And they're talking about this being like the technate. That's coming from their conversations. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. It goes back to the original Technocracy Inc. dynamic from Elon's relatives. But the video is just obscene to me. Now you've got Trump literally playing a video. In that video, it's basically highlighting the idea of, what they're going to turn Gaza into a resort and showing the destruction of Gaza as if that rationalizes it. And this isn't an AI image, I think, that was shared by the woman who shared that video of Trump sharing it. The point is these are Zionists basically just going, hooray, we're taking Gaza. And literally what we all said they were doing, and they called us racist for. And now they're going, hooray, and things like this. I mean, look at that.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing, but also it's completely contrary to what they tell us they're about, right? There's men on a beach with breasts and beards, right? So-called dancing ladies, quote unquote. There's Trump dancing with, a belly dancer. There's all of this stuff, casinos. I mean, it's so obscene. And then people say to me, oh, look, you're just triggered. He's just trolling. If he's trolling, then he needs to stop hanging out with incels, because this is not funny to us.
Well,
this
here's
stuff
what's
is
important
not
about
funny. Yeah,
the troll part is fascinating, because I keep pointing this out. Like I'm not even disagreeing. Like for all we know, he could have been doing that just to see the response. But we keep seeing this spin out from things that are verifiably, at the very least, just kind of a meme that was put out with no background conversation, no policy behind it, and all of a sudden a like Insurrection Barbie, one of these like million followers that swirl around Elon, caption it and go, that's a great idea. And then Elon goes, whoa, and captions that. And then Trump shares it on True Social. And 2 days later, we're literally talking about buying Greenland. You know, it's like, whoa. Was that a joke?
It's
and then
so manipulated. Yes.
My point is that I almost think it's that it either is them being manipulated by the own audience flow and just kind of being driven into something that they were kind of floating as a joke, but then took serious. But at the same time, almost maybe rolling into these things because it just gets people on their side. Either way, it's like it's trolling all the time until it becomes something they want to be real, and then you got played by the fact that we pretended it was a troll. It's like it's all this nonsensical, everything means nothing, nothing means everything until we tell you what we want you to think. It's all over the place. They keep
telling us, don't they? Oh, he's playing 5D chess. Is he now up to 305D chess? Because it's like so far beyond our reasoning. This whole idea that there's always a method in the madness. No, there isn't. But Ryan, here's the thing, right? Is that obviously the Middle East has been a problem for a very, very long time. We know that. I mean, that's just for a fact, right? And they like us to believe that everything started on October the 7th, as if nothing had come before that. And we've seen all that. And we've seen how the media is captured so that whatever happens in terms of Israeli hostages, that's always all over the press and blown up above and beyond anything that happens to Gazans. How does that, I mean, how do you deal with something like that? The unfairness of it is almost too much for me.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say a lot that I am made for this job, this field, like I have a special ability, just unique, let's say, to be able to sort of turn it off at the end of the night, like, because I've dealt with people over the years in this business where they're all gung-ho and then 5 months in, they just burn out. And I get it because it is a difficult thing, especially with all of this, to look at every day, like talking about stuff like, the pedophilia conversation. A very real conversation is a very dark, terrible rabbit hole. And that's something we were, getting into a lot back in the day. And so, and my point is that now it really does weigh on me more than I ever expected. And even in that time where I'm trying to, okay, I'm going to leave my day and go hang out with my family. And more than ever today, these things linger with me. But I'm of the mind that this is so important, not just for, the truth but for just humanity, for what we're trying to, the shift that we're being driven into right now that I don't think even the majority of people want at all. It's worthy of calling out because I think if we don't put a fight up against this, a lot of good people right now, for some reason, are falling for what I think is one of the most obviously deceptive, just evil dynamics that I've ever seen rolling out. And so to your question, I mean, I think the charge I have is that I know it's important and I know that this needs to be fought for and that I'm willing to put everything on the line for it. And I think that's just what keeps me going, but it does weigh on me. It's hard.
It's one of those ones, though, it gets you into a lot of trouble on social media. I'm shadow banned to hell on X these days. Yeah. And I mean, I like hardly anybody seeing my posts. And that is because the moment you start criticizing Israel, Musk or Trump, you're done on X, right? That's a reality. So what about the whole Epstein thing? Because that's interesting, isn't it? We were told, Kash Patel told us, he promised that he would release the unredacted Epstein list, with not such a list, but in terms of files, within 24 hours of being confirmed. Now, obviously, Trump has had a long relationship with Epstein. There are a zillion pictures of them together. This was not some passing acquaintance. What's going on there? What's happening with Kash Patel, do you reckon?
Well, on the Kash part first, it's important to see that they've, I mean, I'm like I said last night, I actually think I've never really been the one to hold them to these. We all know politicians are bombast and lie. I mean, it's funny that when they say we're going to end these wars in 24 hours and we're like, yeah, that's unlikely. And they call you an anti-Trumper. It's like, well, and then we get there and it takes a week for it to happen and they haven't even ended technically. And the point is, well, you got to give them time. It's like, well, that's what I was saying when you were telling me 24 hours. It's just funny how that always works. So in this case, obviously they said 24 hours. So if let's say the list comes out in a week, I'll still say that's a good thing if it's actually the full information, which I don't know how we can ever verify. My point is, I don't see how this could possibly be honest. For what the point you're referencing right here, the reality that I think it's transparently clear that people like Trump, and let's just put it this way, it's not a partisan dynamic. The Israeli Mossad CIA blackmail sexual network that was rolled out, which is still clearly going on, is absolutely nonpartisan. It's about manipulating this government, which, my God, how can we not see that right now? And so whether you get something, which I wonder even that, but we'll see. It's the question is whether, they're hiding something. And right now, to your point, what's going on? It's been, it was supposed to be yesterday. Okay, so if we're being told that this is the Democrats, which is basically the way they keep framing this, then why wouldn't you just release the list? Who are you possibly trying to withhold? So if you're not releasing it right away, the only way you can read that is that there's something that they want to change, hide, and people are going to say national security. It's like, okay, but now you're telling us you're going to hide somebody that was a part of a sexual blackmail network because of national security? No, that's not transparency. We should be holding the criminals accountable, and that's what they're telling us. If you're going to redact a name for national security, then you're not fighting the deep state. Right. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I don't think it'll be full because of all the Zionists swinging around this fake transparency dynamic. Good.
I mean, that is the reality. Exactly what you're saying there is exactly the reality. And the thing is that we heard also that an FBI whistleblower has said that they are erasing files to do with Jeffrey Epstein. We can't verify. No, we can't.
Which we should consider, right?
None of us on this screen would be surprised if that was the case, though, would we? Because we've kind of seen it all before. Everything that you're saying right now, we've seen it all before. We were hoping. I personally was hoping for something different, even though I'm politically homeless. Did you vote, Ryan?
Mm-mm. I think I've only voted once in my life, and I'm very adamant about. Well, I mean, we can get into this. It's a kind of conversation, but first of all, my point being that I do not believe that your vote translates to the outcome. I really don't. And I think there's 100,000 reasons we all see that, but we only apply it to one side of the paradigm. The reality is that even if it does actually translate, I make the point every time that I think voting is paramount to a representative government. But in a structure like that, which again, I don't want. I actually am more of an anarchistic mindset with what I think we should be living under. The point, though, is that the voting dynamic, I think, is an abusive reality right now, where they give you a false binary and they tell you to pick the lesser of evils, and we get jammed into it every time. This last time, it was very clear. We were screaming a lot about the idea that, like, I mean, every single year, I'm the one saying vote nobody, right? Like, and different variations therein, and you get occasional pushback, but never like we just saw last time. It was overwhelming. It's actually why we started the IMA for the most part, was this clear, we saw this building, right? And the idea was nonpartisan, objective kind of research. And our point was simply like, look, we're just highlighting that maybe we don't need government. Let's think of a world where we don't need it. You feel free to disagree. And it was like this waterfall of black-pilled purity test, which is like still happening right now. I'm actually going to be on a James Corbett thing, and it's coming up soon about this whole black-pilled, white-pilled dynamic. But the reason I don't is because I don't believe it translates. And even if I did at this moment, I think that the system is so bastardized and broken to basically funnel us into one direction that I don't. And I'm happy to have that conversation, though. I think it's important to discuss it.
I completely agree. And then when people go, well, if you didn't vote, you have no say. No, actually, the fact that you voted and enabled this means I have plenty to say about this. And I do have plenty to say about this. And one of the things I have to say about politicians, and this is in the US as well as the UK, is how many are absolutely up to their eyeballs and sold out to Israel. If I hear another member of parliament or American politician tell us that Israel is first, I'm just going to start headbutting walls. How can they do this? Kash Patel, he's not alone. There's loads of them saying it. What are your thoughts? Isn't it America first?
Yeah, that's the crazy part about this. And this is why I'm of the belief that we're in such a controlled, tightly controlled media space right now. The only place we can ever look at this point for the majority is the corporate media and the mainstream alternative media. And I think they're lying to us. I don't think most people are buying this because I think it's transparent. You see Kash Patel come out and the very first thing he says is we need to prioritize Israel. Well, that's diametrically opposed to America first. So that's weird. And so other than the screaming I'm calling them Redemlicans at this point. I think they're all the same thing. But the Republicans, team sport politics, screaming that somehow makes sense. It's, contorting America first into whatever that, they're our best ally. But your point is that every one of them are doing the same. Pam Bondi comes out. One of the very first things, if not, I think the first thing she did was a task force to investigate October 7th. How does that even relate to the United States interest other than they're an ally? It doesn't make any sense. Or Hegseth and being a proud Zionist and telling you that Israel's a biblical right to other people's land. These are terrifying things, but it's across the board. I mean, the anti-Semitism task force he creates, every single one of these things you can see are about undermining American or ignoring American interests and rights in the interest of a foreign country. And I mean, if this was even a fraction of this and it was a D next to someone's name, or another country like China, these people would be pulling their hair out. The point like you and I are talking about is we would be upset on any of those situations. It should matter no matter who it is or what person's behind it. If another country is influencing to this degree our policy, it's simple.
It's so normalized, though. It's so incredibly normalized over here. The what we have in Parliament is we have like Labour Friends of Israel, Conservative Friends of Israel. They're given money by the Israeli lobby, and yet this seems to be completely above board. It does my head in. Tell me, what do you think about Musk? Because we've been told Musk's father says Netanyahu says Musk is the real president. It's difficult to know whether Errol Musk is telling the truth or not. But what are your thoughts about Musk and his influence?
It's an interesting conversation because it's sort of like the game of, is Israel controlling the United States or is the United States controlling Israel? I mean, I frankly think the evidence is wild when you see, and that was the point I was going to make on top of the rest of them. Is, Rubio goes, the first two things he does is go visit Israel. Like, he's done it twice, by the way, since he's become the Secretary of Defense. He's went to Israel twice. That's insane. Or every one of them, the first phone call is Netanyahu. Or the German chancellor, the first phone call is Netanyahu. That's just ridiculous. It's so obvious what's going on. But the point is, maybe that's the way they do it. So we look at it that way. But so in this context, it's like, it's hard to say. Is it that Elon is supposed to be looking like he's more, he's the front man? Or, a lot of people even argue, and this is something people should really look into. Greg Reese had a great video about this. I think we should be asking whether Elon is even the person behind a lot. This is a pretty popular discussion, and it's all, Elon derangement syndrome
is
kind of a thing now.
Composite character,
yeah,
really.
Well, is he really in control of all the things he's doing? Is he actually running all these companies? Or is he just a front man for military intelligence dynamics? I mean, I think it's, XAI, for example, his current AI system on Twitter was a DARPA program. XAI ended in 2019, and literally months later, he buys Twitter, turns it into X, and then right after that makes XAI. And it's called explainable AI in DARPA. They claim it ended in 2019, and now he starts explainable XAI it literally says explain this post. It's the same thing. And Elon is like that. Or, for example, total information awareness got turned into Palantir, which was a government contract that became private. It's the same thing we're seeing everywhere. So to your question, I think that Elon, if I had to put my finger on it, I think Elon Musk has outsized influence and control over a lot of things because I don't think either Trump or Elon are actually the ones pulling the strings and making decisions. And so Elon is a character in this play right now that is very bombastic and having a lot of influence on certain crowds they need to pacify for what's happening. If there's anybody, like with COVID-19, the group that was the most likely to push back was the militia, constitutionalist, Republican gun owners. Yeah. And so they got pacified because Trump became the president and we won. And that's why most of them were wishy-washy in the beginning about pushing back on COVID-19. Same thing's happening right now. They're literally rolling out the Great Reset. They're literally reimagining our entire system, and they're going, "We're winning." It's insane to me.
This is like New World Order with bells on, though. That's the thing. Is that right. I mean, generally, Ryan, I want to be very hopeful and optimistic about this because some of the early things were absolutely spot on. Like I say, no single sex in sports and all that sort of stuff was really good, and we were like, yeah, we can really get with this. But sooner or later, you see that Zionist agenda come rushing in, and you just have to wonder who is running the show. So you say neither Elon or Musk are really in charge. Who do you think is in charge?
Well, I mean, my general point has been that I think it's, and this is evidence-based reality, that Zionism is, Biden called himself a Zionist. Now the current administrations are all proud Zionists. I mean, it's not hard to recognize what's happening here. So I think there's you don't have to argue that it's like Israel's government literally pulling the strings. No. I do think that's largely what's happening, but you could just look at as a political movement. Zionism has wildly infiltrated, which I had a great interview with David Icke about this a while, about Sabbateanism, which is arguably a historical kind of origin point that kind of blossomed out, bad word for it, into Zionism, Nazism, and communism. And its foundation is about infiltrating governments and religions for their purposes. And it's just hard not to see how obvious that is the way it's playing out. And the trick is that they want you to allot that to just Jewish people. There's a lot of Jewish people in the world right now that are rabidly anti-Zionist, and they're being beat up by the IDF in Israel, right? It's Zionism, but that does clearly overlap with a lot of the Jewish community as well as Christians, though. There are more Christian Zionists today than there are Jewish Zionists. So it's about Zionism for me.
It's so good to talk with you because it's like, this guy really gets it. And it's so frustrating. We're living in a world at the moment where, as I say, immediately that Trump does something, people are like, oh, well, it was AI, it's fake. And it's like, yeah, but he put it on his own social media account. He did that. Right. He has, he said, I want the world to see this. So people make all manner of justifications. But what I'm loving about what you're saying is you're cutting through all the crap and you're just saying, this is the deal. This is the evidence that stands. And it's absolutely right. These are the sounds that they've made. They've told us, haven't they? They've made it very clear. What do you think is going to happen in the foreseeable, sort in terms of Kennedy is a perfect one. So again, we all cheered. Yeah, brilliant, Kennedy. We want him on and everything. But immediately mRNA is on the table and Trump is telling us to applaud the Pfizer CEO at a press conference. So it is a lot of gaslighting, isn't there?
Well, I mean, again, let's go to the facts, right? I mean, obviously the game is, well, he rolled out the Pfizer guide so he could be booed because it's a gift to you. It's like just absurd, wild Q-like assumption. Certainly possible, but we don't, look at everything else. I mean, he is still supporting all these things. So the facts show us that he still supports Operation Warp Speed. He still, to this very day, tells you those shots are good and helping people. And I don't, even if you think that's some long-term play, you're telling me you're okay with him telling children to do something that could kill them for your political benefit? That's insane to me. But on top of that, what has he done since? He's rolled out an mRNA cancer platform, which is not just for cancer, guys. That's just the stated point starting at. It's clear this is blowing up, and Elon's been involved with this and stated that was a good thing back in 2023. And so that's obvious, right? But then in general, it's obvious to see that their path is right in line with all the stuff that we're discussing, still building the same problems, still driving that same bus. And so it's, if you want to pretend like somehow this is, like for example, like the bird flu. Right now, what they're doing, like immediately, you saw them. They've already conditionally approved a bird flu shot for poultry, and everyone pushed back and said I was somehow reading that wrong. And then it flushed out as usual, and it turned out no. They publicly stated they were shifting into biosecurity and medications for birds because look, I don't want them to kill all the birds either, but I don't think that the vaccination is the right either. The point is, listen to Dr. Peter McCullough, is to let it happen. And they'll end up getting immunity. And I know people disagree and you should question these things. But the point is that neither side of that false binary is the right direction. And that's how they usually play you. Now, the last point is 3 days before Trump's inauguration, that's just Biden's administration, they gave $540 million to Moderna to make an mRNA bird flu shot. I keep checking. That has not stopped. Now, ask yourself why RFK Jr. has not even mentioned any of these things. I mean, yes, he's pointed to the sunscreen discussion. Good. I'm all for that. But how about we start focusing on the things that you guys were given power to really fight? And it doesn't seem to be happening. Now, if tomorrow he stops that, I will cheer that on. And the only thing with RFK I worry about is the support for Israel and support for an ongoing genocide. It just makes me question what else I'm missing. But I do support all of his amazing, long-term, absolutely powerful work around health. And I still hope that he has a difference here, makes a difference. And I just don't know why he hasn't stopped that yet. I don't think he's going to stop if there's $500 billion going into an mRNA platform decision. I think we got played, or I think people who supported that thinking that would be what would change everything got played.
What do you think when people say it's all theater, it's all scripted? Do you agree with that?
Well, it depends on what you mean by all. I mean, I do think there's a lot of what we deal with today. I mean, if you start at the entire dynamic, like if we want to ask whether literally every single thing we deal with and talk about, like, the things you see online and whether there's some level of kind of government or social engineering influence, I genuinely think that's possible, likely even. But it's how can you possibly know that? My point is that we have power structures today that have invested decades and decades and decades of money and influence and technology into being able to control and dictate what you think and say and feel. It's very clear. It's documented from everywhere you look. Just look up like DARPA documentation around what they're trying to accomplish. It's horrifying if you know what they've been doing for 50 years. The point is, I don't know how much, but I think we have to be honest about the fact that we're in a very controlled dynamic right now. Like, just take Twitter, for example, or anything else. That doesn't mean there's not truth somewhere. I mean, we're talking and things are going through, but overall, it's not so much about the blunt censorship today. It's about the way that they're kind of algorithmically channeling things. It's real-time social engineering. And I think experimentation to see what happens if we do this or knock that over. What happens if Elon or whoever tries to make a story into the focal point, and we see it becomes the only thing that's in the conversation for 2 days.
Absolutely right. We are seeing it in real time. In that way, it's extraordinary, isn't it? In some respects, I love living at this time in our history, by the way, because I love the fact it is interesting, and I love the fact that we can see it in real time. We can call it out, and that was always a great thing about social media, wasn't it? And why legacy media hates social media, because suddenly people had the power to be able to call out the lies in real time. But as you say, we're so controlled now. I mean, it is hideous controlled on X, and I don't know how different it is on other social medias. But before you leave us, Ryan, just give us a parting shot, in terms of what you want people to know.
Well, as always, I mean, the most important thing right now is to just show discernment. Do your due diligence. That doesn't, it's not that you have to believe someone's lying to you all the time. Just understand that people, whether deliberately dishonest or not, can be wrong. People can make mistakes. They can be misled by somebody they trust. So the point is, you never really know what the intent is. That's also the problem, is that people, especially the partisanship, they act like we know. Well, he did this and we know he's not going to do it this way because he said, well, you don't know any of that. You want to believe it. And I'm not going to say I know either. The point is, these are words by politicians, whether you think they're even politicians. The point is, we don't know for sure. So question everything that's happening, especially the people that you believe in, that you think are actually fighting for what I want you to be right. My God, if Trump and Elon are what you think they are, who wouldn't want that? That's the point. But so if you believe that, then hold their feet to the fire. Don't pull punches because it's all one small mistake. No, that's where you should stand tall and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You need to be the best you can because you're claiming to do the best for all of us. So be the best. But that's not what's happening. In most cases, they're giving them even more leeway because they've already decided they're your leaders, they're heroes. You're the hero. If you want someone to change your life, it's you, not some person you don't know. I just, funny on the way out, I read something today that Elon apparently lost about $50 billion in the last year, and he's still the richest man in the world. It's like these people have no idea what your life is like. They have no idea what you actually go through. And that's why I think a lot of this MAGA stuff feels embarrassing, like they're placating, like they're almost making fun of you, because I don't think they really even understand what you are. I think a lot of them into what they want. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think I beg your pardon, but I think a lot of MAGA now have buyer's remorse. They come out quite strongly and angrily on Truth Social against that video because people are like, there's something wrong here. And also, like last week when Trump administration were trying to intervene to do with the Tate brothers and get kind of like their no-fly restrictions lifted and stuff like that. People are just like, I think there is a buyer's remorse among some people because it's supposed to be the party of family values, and we have Elon Musk with now apparently 13 children, and Donald Trump who actually seems to be much more of a family man, actually, in all fairness, but I could be completely wrong about that. But like you, Ryan, I like to keep my mind as open as possible and not necessarily come down one way or another until the fact is there. But listen, thank you. You've been a tremendous guest. I knew you would be. People have loved having you on. Very much enjoyed you on. Please come back and join us for actually a longer period so we can delve in deeper on this. Yes, Hamish, great guest. Absolutely great guest. Everybody, this is Ryan Christian, the last American vagabond, and he is sensational. Great to have you with us, Ryan.
See you next time. Thank you.
Take care. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yes. And again, some of you don't agree. I think Jan is one of them who doesn't agree. And Jan, the thing about around here is we have freedom of speech. Now, for those who haven't seen, we're 1 minute past 6. But for those who haven't seen, I do just want to show you that Trump video because I was so alarmed by it. And I remain alarmed by it, actually. And I wonder whether it's going to show up on here because some of you might not have seen it. So I'm going to play it.
Set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1.
And I see a comment. I'm sorry, I've just been completely distracted. Am I hearing that Peter Hyatt has passed away? Is that correct? Peter Hyatt has passed away. I'm just seeing that in the comments. I'm completely thrown by that. I talked to Peter a while ago and he told me, I knew that he'd had cancer, but there was other stuff going on for him. I'm actually blown away. And this has completely thrown me, I'm afraid. That video, by the way, was posted by Trump. It's absolutely sanctioned by him, no doubt about it whatsoever. And it shows deplorable images, including him and Netanyahu sunbathing, really on a land of dead bodies. Condolences to Peter Hyatt and his family. Peter Hyatt, a sensational human being. That's literally thrown me seeing that live on air. I've interviewed him a number of times. I will bring out some interviews and I will talk about Peter on Friday. Incredibly sad news. Peter illuminated so much to do with the Madeleine McCann case. I'm absolutely heartbroken to hear that. Absolutely heartbroken to hear that. Thank you, Vicky. Really appreciate that. Shalini, it's horrendous. That is, Catherine says, blessings, Peter. Blessings to Peter's family. Peter Hyatt changed the world in a really good way. He illuminated so much. Really, really sad to hear that. Really sad to hear that, Lisa. And Do you know what? It's really difficult to know what to say after that, really, because I always like to finish on an upbeat note, and it's really difficult following that because that's literally just come in and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Rest in peace, Peter, says Angie Mack. Diane says, my condolences to everyone who knew him. Mr. Mensa says, blessings to Peter on his journey. Rest in peace, Peter. Indeed, rest in peace, Peter. And the thing is, Peter was a truth teller. And so actually, I think I'm going to end on a really positive note because I think that's also important. I want to bring this in, a 1 minute of hope. It's from viewer Ray Wilson. We're hearing a great deal about the harm done to people during C-19. Well, I was delighted to receive this beautiful, inspiring and uplifting message from Ray. I want to play this. I think it's important to end on a better note than that, actually. And this is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Ray, for sending this in. Listen, everybody, this gives us some hope.
Me and the missus visit Gordon, her brother, who became severely ill after receiving a second AstraZeneca jab. He was admitted to the hospital and later discharged to a care home. Despite regaining his ability to walk, he still struggles with cognitive abilities. We've become regulars at Bob's Barbers. Gordon rarely speaks. We'd better get a shave, mate, and a bit of a trim. What do you say? The barber greets us. Hello, sir. Same haircut and a shave, he asks, looking at me as Gordon sits in the chair. That's fine, I answer on Gordon's behalf. Your missus, she not here today? On cue, the door opens and my missus enters. You want to get a few chippies, my missus asks her brother. We walk out onto the pavement and prepare to cross the road to the chip shop. Ready, steady, go, Gordon blurts out. Look at my missus, and my missus looks at me. This is the first time Gordon has spoken 3 words without a prompt in a very long time. High above, 2 gliders circle in their majestic arcs against a sky of blue. The sun warms our skin. The moment is fleeting, but I can't help feel grateful for these small moments of connection and joy.
Thank you, Ray. Terrible to hear that he was injured by the AZ jab and was able to finally utter 3 words. And that is incredible. That's the kind of thing that Peter Heyer would have enjoyed, actually. Oh, let me just take that off. That's the kind of thing that Peter Heyer rejoiced in joyful things. And I feel incredibly sad about that, actually, about his passing. But I wanted to end on a note of positivity because I think that's important too. I really do. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you indeed. It was absolutely wonderful that he was able to utter 3 words finally after receiving that jab. Wonderful stuff. And I'm going to end that now. I will be back with you on Friday when I will do a remembrance of Peter Heyer and his absolutely phenomenal work. And I think I will say this because I'm pretty sure that Peter would support something like this. And that is hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness. I will see you Friday, everybody. Rest in peace, Peter Heyer. You made the world so much better. Take care, everybody. See you Friday.